Good evening.
Good evening.
And happy Friday to all my Kingsters. We have now entered the Kinky-verse.
Kinky verse.
What is your spirit animal? Mine is a lion named Mwah. Today, I have a very unique artist that I met while performing in Houston back in 2017. We've done a few shows together, and I was always captivated by their energy. One show, they jumped on stage while I was performing and raped my mouth. Lovely. I'm talking about Stephen Rankin from Shut Up Sydney.
Shut up, Sydney.
And he is here to talk about his new project. Welcome.
So, speaking to the band then, I nicked the name Lennon from a Japanese punk band I like named Stalin. Their leader, Michio Indo, who passed away sometime last year, he chose that name to highlight what he called the dark side of every good idea meant to save humanity from itself. And while I do vibe a bit with that sort of pessimism, in our case the name Lennon is more so an indicator that we're attemptedly something of an intellectual vanguard for punk, as it were. And that's not supposed to, mean us jerking ourselves off, much less myself. It's just, I don't know, that's not a high bar anymore. This thing called punk has been long since evacuated of any sort of political or social relevance or viability or cognizance that it may have initially at least attempted to have. I'm not sure if it ever actually became any sort of effective beltway or gateway into actual strands of activism outside of a few choice groups like maybe Oi Polloi or Chumbawamba. But then they, I don't know, which came first, chicken or the egg, activism or the punk band, you know, so.
Yeah.
Speaking more to me, I'm a classically trained opera singer. I'm a bass baritone. Also in the band we have Simon, who's kind of brought in a very decidedly industrial element to things. I've always been into industrial music on the margins, you know. I was listening to things like KMFDM. I really liked very overproduced, almost like electronic sounding 80s metal albums. And then Simon just kind of nudged me a bit like, hey dude, maybe you'd like Nine Inch Nails or Ministry more than like KMFDM. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. And I guess I'd been into Fad Gadget before I knew them as well. Although that was more for the performance art. Frank Tovey was always a little bit more utilitarian with the way he implemented power tools and such as instruments, as opposed to Trent, who made more of an art of it, or Depeche Mode, and etc., etc.
Praise Allah.
You've got Jeremy, our bassist. He's very into Bootsy Collins and Primus, as well as like a lot of death metal and prog metal like Opeth and so on and so forth. So It sounds like it wouldn't all quite mesh together, but I think the things we like about things we like them in ways that allow them to be assimilated and combined together. We don't play shows very much. Granted, no one does right now, Waka Waka. We tend to be banned from every other club we perform at just because, again, much like the Stalin, much like Michiro Indo, I, in particular, like to imbue our performances with a very sort of crass performance art. Again, it's part of my attempt to take things that punk rock has done, like very outrageous shock, what would come to be known as like shock rock kind of stage craft, and sort of imbue it with a political nuance or artistic cubism or context. There's this pro wrestler named William Regal who has always said, you should always have a reason for everything you do when you go out there. In his case, the ring. I take it to mean the stage. For a crude example, I think the thing that's gotten us into the most trouble before, we have this old song dating back to this old project of mine, Shut Up Sydney, that this one kind of permutated from a song called A Real Man, which is about the, various aspects of toxic masculinity and how patriarchy informs it and yada yada yada. So to parody the marshmallow fallacy of, instant male gratification and the expectations thereof, that sort of entitlement, I simulate, a cheeky wank, as it were. Again, it's crude, it's kind of juvenile and stupid, but at the same time, it, gets the point across. Ideally, anyway. You can only expect so much understanding from people who don't give a shit in the first place, which is kind of what you get when you exist in a music scene that is less a music scene and more just a bar culture circuit that has bands or, live music that is apathetically tolerated, if anything at all. Hence the, prodigy of shitty fucking cover bands here across every genre. It's, I love playing music in a fucking tech boom town that used to be afloat on oil money and got a, second kick in the ass, second chance that boom towns shouldn't get from tech hub and the like. It's great. Wonderful. Yeah, much like the Stalin to Japan, Lenin is meant to be something of a wake-up call. Also, much like Stalin, it is very quixotic and, is what it is. Like, to speak to the greater, left and politics again at more of a macro scale, I think a lot of frustration people are feeling right now, especially in the moment in which we're at this bunker stage of late capitalism, we don't have enough of an organized left to seize the moment to take advantage of these things.
That was absolutely
fantastic.
It is so interesting to hear about your background and to find that we have very similar musical tastes. Thank you for inspiring us all in one way or another.
Meow.
So this has been a wonderfully musical episode, and I absolutely love vibing with you all on this beautiful hour.
Please subscribe and hit that like button.
Thank you for watching, and as always, I love you. Mwah.